What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the March 7, 2022 edition of Raw Talk, which had some thoughts on what I thought was a very enjoyable edition of Raw from Monday night. We had some further WrestleMania developments, some very good matches, promos. So I thought it was a very good Raw on Monday. Not a must-see Raw Talk by any means. In the studio, we had Matt Camp, Jackie Redmond per usual, and their guest for this week being Peter Rosenberg. Again, not the most insightful analysis of all time, but he was fine on this show. So we opened the episode with the obvious announcement that closed out Raw on Monday night. Jackie and Matt kind of getting all excited over it. Kevin Owens' challenge to Stone Cold Steve Austin to appear on the KO show at WrestleMania. Now, they also run down the biggest headlines and get to the rest of Raw as well, but they really do focus in on the Stone Cold stuff for a moment, a lot like they did with the Edge attack last week, as that closed out the show. That was a big news story. As of this recording, I'm recording this now on Tuesday afternoon, after the announcement was made official on Twitter at noon Eastern Time that Stone Cold has accepted Kevin Owens' challenge for WrestleMania. What that challenge is exactly, we don't really know, is the thing. I thought it may have been, someone asked me on Twitter, was the 19 years thing an accident? Was that just kind of him? Because Corey Graves had mentioned that on commentary, because they cut to the commentary team after Owens' promo and challenge to Stone Cold. And Owens made it pretty clear that he wants him on the KO show at WrestleMania. That was really what the segment was all about. And that was what I thought it was. Until I heard Corey Graves say, that we haven't seen Stone Cold wrestle in almost 19 years. I'm like, okay, why is that relevant if he's not wrestling at WrestleMania 38? I know that was the rumor a couple of weeks ago. It came out from Meltzer that it wasn't happening. If it was a full-blown match, then Owens would have said, I want him one-on-one at WrestleMania. But that's not what he said. He said he wants to host the biggest KO show of all time at WrestleMania with Stone Cold Steve Austin. But then Corey's like, he hasn't wrestled in 19 years. And then they say it again here, and I mention that because they mentioned it again here on Raw Talk. I think it was Matt Camp saying, he hasn't wrestled in 19 years. Why would you say that unless there's an expectation of him getting physical and either having an impromptu match or whatever? And Stone Cold didn't really add to didn't really clear things up with his answer, and it was a great promo. It was a very well-shot video. They put it up on the WWE Twitter account and on YouTube and whatever at noon. Stone Cold was like, I'll accept your challenge, regardless of whether it's a talk show or a match or a brawl or whatever it is. It's like, okay, then what is it then? You know what I mean? Like, they're clearly dancing around the fact they don't know what it is yet. A lot like with Cena and Taker for Mania 34. That was never, in storyline, from a storyline standpoint, the match was never supposed to happen until Taker came back at WrestleMania. Cena never said, I'm going to issue an open challenge to Taker at Mania. He was trying to get him to accept the match going into Mania. Taker never said no. We just never heard from the guy. With this, Stone Cold said he will be there. He will be at Mania, and they would be fucking morons to not even advertise him for the event. But he is saying, I don't know what it's going to be. Stone Cold himself said in that video, I don't know if it's a match or a promo or a brawl or whatever. I assume he will get physical. I don't think it'll end up being a match. If it does turn into a match, I don't know why you wouldn't advertise that. Especially, you could say what you will about Taker and Cena from 34. That show didn't even need them on it. That show was good enough on its own without Cena and Taker being tacked on at the last second. I know that was a 2-minute match. Taker even said in the last ride he felt like he could go and do a full-blown match. I don't know if he didn't know that until right before. I don't remember exactly. With this, I would hope that they would know by now whether Stone Cold can do the match or not. And it sounds like he doesn't want to do the match, but he has no issue with getting physical. The thing with that is, we saw Stone Cold on the show 2 years ago on Raw. Not last week, but it was as recently as 2020 when he was in the ring on Raw, the first COVID pandemic episode of Raw. And he laid out Byron Saxton with a stunner or two. Did the whole beer bath. So it's not like it's something we haven't seen him do. It's not like he hasn't gotten physical since he retired from the ring 19 years ago. And if you listen to Stone Cold's promo, it sounds like, he's gotta put this to rest because he mentioned losing to The Rock with 3 rock bottoms at WrestleMania 19. It's like, okay, then why else would you mention that if you're not going to have a match? And it doesn't sound like they're going to set it in stone as a match. I'm going on for way too long here, but I bring it up because they mentioned it here and they made a big deal about it. 19 years. Okay, who gives a fuck? We saw him 2 years ago on Raw delivering stunners, so what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like I said, though, they ran down the other biggest headlines from Raw. They replayed the Miz, Logan Paul, Jerry Lawler segment. I mean, not exactly my cup of tea. I don't give a fuck about Logan Paul or Lawler, but I guess it succeeded in putting more heat on Miz and Paul before their big WrestleMania match with the Mysterios, who were conspicuous by their absence on this show. We hear from Miz backstage here on Raw Talk with Sarah Schreiber. It might have been Kevin Patrick, I don't remember. But Miz basically says, oh yeah, I love being in Cleveland, but I got to, repeat what I said earlier on Raw, that we will never get a WrestleMania. It's just not, I mean, it sounds like he's talking genuinely too, which is the funny thing. Usually here on Raw Talk and in his promos, he sounds like he's cutting a promo. Miz is the, quintessential sports entertainer. Here on Raw Talk, before he kind of, shifts it around and goes from babyface to heel, so to speak, he sounds like he's talking like a normal human being. He's like, oh yeah, Cleveland's such a beautiful city. We'll never get a WrestleMania. It's a dump out there, but it's a nice city. So it was funny how he said that. And I'm sure that's actually how he feels too, which is true. I don't think WrestleMania will ever get a Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland will ever get a WrestleMania going forward, just given it's not that big of a tourist attraction in the middle of April, I would assume, but anything can happen, I guess. He calls Logan Paul a natural, and I think he said this a week or two ago as well when he revealed Logan Paul as his partner. Paul, I think I forgot to mention this 2 weeks ago when Miz was on Raw Talk, but, it's funny they get him on Raw, but they're not good enough to get him on Raw Talk. No Logan Paul appearance on Raw Talk. No. If you were expecting an exclusive from Logan Paul on the show, he was not here. But Miz calls him a natural and said that the match at WrestleMania is going to be incredible. Rosenberg calls Logan Paul the Miz's Jose Lothario, and he even says, Matt, you're going to get a kick out of this. And Matt obviously understands the reference. Jackie Redmond didn't know what Jerry Lawler's puppies joke was, so I'm not shocked that she doesn't know who Jose Lothario is. But they talk about Cleveland for a minute or two for some reason. I don't know why. They waste time with that before replaying the RK Bro Raw Tag Team title win. They got the belts back on Monday night, beating Alpha Academy, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens in a triple threat tag team matchup. Matt Kemp calls it one of the best triple threats he's ever seen. I don't know if he means best triple threat matches in general or best triple threat tag team title matches. I don't know. Best triple threat ever, I don't know if I would go that far. I'm thinking Vengeance 02 or, yeah, it was 02 with The Rock, Angle, and Taker, right? I'm thinking Mania 30 with Bryan Batista, Orton. I'm thinking WrestleMania 20 and even Backlash 04 with Benoit, Shawn, and Taker, or not Taker, Triple H. So that's 3 right there. Obviously, he's just using hyperboles here, but it's like, I don't know if I would go best ever. Best triple threat tag team match ever? Maybe. There's an argument to be made there. I mean, I thought it was a great match. I didn't really have to think about it. But anyway, they also recap the Rhea Ripley Liv Morgan win over Carmella and Queen Zelina, earning Ripley and Morgan a tag team title opportunity and entry into the women's tag team title match at WrestleMania, also involving Sasha Banks and Naomi. We hear backstage from Morgan and Ripley with Sarah Schreiber, and Morgan says that they live for brutality. They don't have a tag team name yet, nor should they. This should not be a permanent pairing at all. But they make the joke, oh, live for brutality, like brutal. This is my brutality, and Liv Morgan, clever, I guess. Rhea says that she's not giving away her game plan, but that they are on the same page. So, a whole lot of nothing from those two. They clearly enjoy being partners. They're probably friends outside of the ring. I'll reiterate what I said in my Raw review, though, from last night on WrestleRant.com. This feels so fucking lazy. I mean, I think Liv and Rhea getting a match at Mania is great. They should have a match at Mania after the years that they've had. Liv hasn't won any gold, but she's been featured far more in the last year, 9 months, 6 months than she has at any other point in her entire WWE career, especially on her own. Ripley was a former Raw Women's Champion, a fucking tag team champion. She lost the belts a couple of months ago and had her partner turn on her like 2 months ago. And already she's back in the tag team ranks. I guess it's an upgrade over being in the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal, which also means nothing. But you would think they can come up with a program for these women and something for them to do at WrestleMania that doesn't involve a pointless tag team title, where there's no real feud at stake. Completely stupid, in my opinion. Again, nice they're at Mania competing for a championship. I really honestly hope Rhea and Liv don't win. Maybe Banks and Naomi will win. I honestly expect that, but Rhea more so than anyone really should be on her own. Banks is established. Naomi, I understand. But with Rhea, I mean, all these women should be on their own, but Rhea coming out of WrestleMania should be facing Bianca or Becky Lynch or something like that. She was literally just in the tag team ranks. Not Liv, not Sasha, not Naomi. Sasha's been there a couple of times. At least with Naomi, though, or not Naomi, with Rhea, she was literally just in the tag team ranks a fucking month or two ago. That, to me, screams lazy. Anyway, they replay the awesome Edge promo for Monday night. Really enjoyed that. Jackie Redmond questions AJ Styles' condition. Can he go at WrestleMania? Clearly, he will. But I like that they took him off the show for this week to sell the injury from last week. WWE called it a severe neck contusion or something. He's not actually hurt, but we'll see if he's back next week or the week after. And Matt Camp says that Edge had to go to this new low because he had to. He's lost championship matches. He's been frustrated recently. I mean, he beat The Miz and Maurice twice. He beat Miz at day one and then beat Miz and Maurice at Royal Rumble. So I'm not exactly sure why he'd be frustrated. He didn't exactly explain that on Monday. I mean, maybe just because he found himself not in a match at WrestleMania, or because, again, he has failed at championship opportunities before in 2021. I don't know. But I love this new old Edge, so to speak. Matt Camp even says, this is not a new Edge, this is an old Edge. We just haven't seen this Edge in a long time, and it's going to be a great Edge going into WrestleMania. They recap the Finn Balor versus Austin Theory match that saw Balor win by disqualification following interference from Damian Priest. We hear backstage from Damian Priest, and he does the whole... The weird thing about this promo, and I love Damian Priest, but what they're having him say is completely fucking dumb. So he starts off his interview backstage, I think with Kevin Patrick, and I remember it was Kevin Patrick interviewing him because they did that whole thing here on Raw Talk last year where Kevin Patrick was like, oh, do you want to go out for a pint? And Priest would always dodge him and either decline or walk off, and that was the real heel turn. That was the real early signs of a heel turn from Damian Priest, was turning down a pint from Kevin Patrick. But in all seriousness, he opens this interview by saying, oh, I'm not blaming everyone. But then he says he does blame everyone by saying that they broke the guardian angel and that it's their fault that he's attacking all of these people's favorites and he's going to continue enjoying beating up everyone's favorites. So again, to recap real quick, he says that he's not blaming everyone, but then he goes on to say literally seconds later that it was their fault that the Angel and Damian Priest, who they were supporting, started booing him, and that's why he turned on them. So it was their fault, even though he said it wasn't. The logic here makes absolutely no fucking sense. Peter Rosenberg says that, going back to the Edge thing, Edge is going to a place where he's comfortable in being the rated R superstar. And again, going back to what Jackie said earlier, Kant questions if Styles will be 100% come WrestleMania. And beating Edge, says Rosenberg, would be an incredible notch in the cap of AJ Styles, which I agree. I mean, I was thinking about this while Peter was talking about AJ's WrestleMania win over Edge if he beats him, which I'm not convinced that he will, because Edge lost last year. I mean, he beat Orton 2 years ago, and it wouldn't hurt Edge to lose this year. And AJ won last year, and he didn't win in 2020. But it doesn't really matter who wins, in my opinion. I would probably put AJ over. But if you look at AJ Styles' WrestleMania resume, and he's been at every WrestleMania since he's come in. This will be his 7th WrestleMania match. But you look at all the other people he's faced at WrestleMania, it really is amazing, and it doesn't get enough credit. He didn't beat him, but he did face Chris Jericho in his WrestleMania debut. A legend. He's facing Edge this year. A legend. He faced Randy Orton at WrestleMania 35 and beat him. A legend. Faced The Undertaker in the main event in a cinematic match 2 years ago at 36. Obviously a legend. That's 4 legends right there at WrestleMania for AJ. All in singles matches. The other 3 matches, Shane McMahon, not a legend, I would say. I mean, I guess you could say that, but again, a very notable name, a big star, very popular, beat him at WrestleMania. That's 5 prominent singles matches at WrestleMania. And then the other 2, one of them he won the Raw Tag Team titles at last year with Owens'S against the New Day, again, one of the most popular tag teams of all time. Beat them. Became a Triple Crown champion or whatever with that win. And then the only other match was with Nakamura. Obviously not the greatest match ever. I would probably put it in the middle of his WrestleMania matches, but still a pretty good match, and he won, and he walked in and out as WWE champion, which not a lot of people can say. So his WrestleMania resume is quite amazing, and I do hope he beats Edge this year. They also questioned what that would mean for Edge to lose to AJ. Would it drive him further off the deep end or whatever? We don't know. Peter Rosenberg talks about how Damian Priest can be dangerous, and he will be dangerous come his next match with Finn Balor, whenever that is. I would assume at WrestleMania. And then they close out the show by discussing Kevin Owens' challenge to Stone Cold one more time, how excited they are. They're going to chug a beer. Wow, Jackie said she's going to chug a beer. Whatever. So, fine edition of Raw Talk this week. I like Damian Priest getting more promo time to explain why he turned heel, but the logic just made no sense. Miz had a different twist to his promo. No Logan Paul appearance, which is probably for the better. I'm not a big Logan Paul guy, but he does play his role well. I'll give him that. We heard from Miz. And then Rhea and Liv were very excited. Great to hear from them. The problem is that the fact that they're... And Liv can be very annoying, too. I like Liv a lot, but, like, maybe it's just the fact that, I don't know, whatever, it's just the way she says certain things, and she screams sometimes for no fucking reason. Liv Morgan can be annoying. She always has been. But she is also very likable. And the team of her and Rhea Ripley, cool, but it makes no sense. And it's very lazy to just be putting 2 single stars into a tag team because you have no other plans for these people at WrestleMania. But again, overall, decent edition of Raw Talk this week that sets some stuff forward for WrestleMania and next week's Raw and stuff like that. So thank you guys for checking in my review of Raw Talk for this week. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode of #AskGSM. Hit the bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up here on the channel, including yesterday. We had my interview with NFL Hall of Famer Kurt Warner go up, talking all about his Orange Comic Company, new NFL locker room experience, virtual experience, and so much more. So check that out if you haven't already. More interviews in the days and weeks to come here on the road to WrestleMania right here on the channel. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.